Yes, sir.
All right, you ever walk down the street and you see a big lady walking to, and you ask her, when's the baby due? She looks at you and says, I'm not pregnant. Do you apologize or do you keep walking? Well, I wouldn't apologize. And the reason why I wouldn't apologize is because I agree with the quote that John Wayne says, never apologize and never explain, it's a sign of weakness. You can apply this to about three things, about three cases that you might encounter in life: dealing with the police, dealing with family, and maybe dealing with women. In a way of dealing with family, you know, your brother says something to you, he tells you something, and then he thinks you're all weak-minded and stuff, and he expects you to say sorry, and you're like, yeah, I'm not saying sorry. So he can't take advantage of you no more, so he can't blame nothing on you. Your sister can't do it, so if they try to blame other stuff on you, you'll be like, oh, he did it. No. And another way could be with police officers. You know, you're driving, you get stopped, and he tells you, you were speeding, and you did all this and that, and you were just like, just write the ticket and let me get on my way. Don't let him influence you, because if he influences you, you're going to get scared, you're going to get all weak-minded, and you're going to start saying sorry, and you don't need to because you didn't do nothing wrong. All you did was go a little over the speed limit because you had to go somewhere. There's just really no point in doing it. And third way is with women. You got a girlfriend, you know, y'all fighting and arguing. You know you're wrong. She knows you're wrong, but you don't admit it, because if you admit it, she knows she's going to have control over you. As a man, you really don't need that. Women, it's kind of the other way, but as a man, you really don't need the woman knowing she has power over you. That's showing that you have real weakness and that you would never stick up for anything. And I think those are the three basic ways you can use this quote that John Wayne said. Thank you.
No, you keep that. That's your souvenir for the day.
Probably a little too much emotion.
All right, CJ. The example in your rhetorical question was pretty effective at getting the audience to respond to you. You made a nice transition to the topic and your point of view. You set up the contents very clearly and effectively. Organizationally, though, you did follow a different structure than the one you set up in the preview. You had the same 3 points. They were just in a different order. I thought your illustration on the first point was a little vague, but your points on the second and third point are a little clearer, and they make a little bit more sense. All of them could be developed a little bit more. Your voice is fine. There's a lot of variety in your voice when you're speaking. That helps. I do think maybe you're rushing a little bit. You had very good gestures. You're very involved. Your face is very expressive. Your eye contact with the audience, interestingly enough, is a little problematic because you sometimes are, even though you are facing out, you're not really looking at people. You're kind of looking in the corner or looking down and looking around, but not engaging people when you're speaking. So it's kind of like you were speaking in front of us and looking in our direction, but not really connecting with people. And I think that that was sort of obvious. your body movements, that's where all your anxiety's coming out. Your feet are moving a lot. You keep turning from side to side. And at first I thought you were going to speak to that corner of the room the whole time. And then you kind of turned a little bit more, but your feet were very animated, a little bit too much energy coming out there. You did a good job, though, kind of responding to the audience feedback. People are laughing and enjoying what you're talking about, so you let that come back to you and made it easier for you to talk a little bit more about some of the points that you were making. I thought you could have used a little bit more of a summary, but you had a pretty clear exit line. So thank you. Abby, come help yourself to some topics and send Stephanie in, please.